so that you can actually make your claim into a dungeon if you want, and have NPCs in there that react certain ways, or because we would like you to be able to essentially build a full encounter, right? Like you can build a full dungeon or eventually a full raid that could eventually get into EverQuest Next. And obviously, you can't do that if you don't have access to those AI tools. Let's see. And thank you guys again for all these questions. These are great. Neurotoxin asks, will drunkenness be the only intoxicating landmark or next, or will other things have intoxicating effects? That's an interesting question. I have no idea. It's funny, too, because one of the things that will heavily influence that is how much we care about the ESRB, like if we're going to get an ESRB rating, and if we want it to be T or M or E. And so as we're deciding those questions, and next and landmark are going to be completely separate from each other in that discussion. That's really what's going to inform things like that. Hey Shagu, nice to see you. Thanks for coming. Dutch Douche, great name, asks which wine I don't own yet. Actually, don't have that many Syrahs, which kind of bums me out because I really like them. Like, don't have tons and tons of things that are super, super heavy and flavorful, or tons of things that are super light. So, I mean, we have like 100 bottles or so of wine, and, considering how much wine is out there, we will never have it all. So it makes it hard to collect. Let's see. New Mexico. Okay, so we're going to have a burrito fight now, and a hamburger fight, and a meth fight. So this is getting exciting. Just combine those all into one fight for who's the best, California or New Mexico. I know you from the O nod. Yeah. That was a baffling thing that happened to me. I never expected to be put into the game that way, and it was honestly a surprise. At which timeline and when can we contact you? I mean, in private. You can definitely send me a message on Twitch right now, or tweet me anytime, and I'll respond as soon as I can. Obviously, I'm on right now, so I can't, but I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Let's see. Just talk and walk into landmarks to see what other people are doing. Kafka, that's a great idea, and I will definitely do that for my next stream. I can't believe I didn't think of that already, because the only reason I wasn't playing Landmark is because I suck at building things. So, me building things in Landmark is probably a good proof of concept as to why you wouldn't want it. So I've been playing Hearthstone because I'm pretty good at trading card games. But yeah, I could definitely walk around and make fun of what other people are building. I'm good at that. See you later, Bezagron. It was nice to have you. Let's see. When am I coming to Europe? I'd love to see you in Amsterdam. Well, we're in process of planning a little trip to Europe. I'm not exactly sure when it's going to happen or where we're going to go. I do love Amsterdam. I've been a few times. I used to work for a company that had its European headquarters in Amsterdam. So we would go, once a year, and it's a really interesting place. Like a really interesting culture. It's not all just drugs and hookers, though there's plenty of that. But yeah, like a really, really cool town. Great weather. Just the best weather. Another cool idea, Bardtail says. Could I propose the idea of installing webcams around the EQ Landmark office with 24/7 coverage? You're joking, but it would be cool. It's funny because we've actually been discussing that. Probably not like comprehensive coverage, but actually the ability to do like sort of a hot mic, or have a room that I jokingly call the hot box since it would have a hot mic in it, where the devs could go in and just hit a button and be live streaming and just talk for 5 minutes or talk for an hour or whatever. Just go in and say, hey, here's an idea, that sort of thing. And a lot of the reason that isn't happening is just tech difficulty. Like, it's not the easiest thing in the world to set something like that up. Really, to be convenient would pretty much require, the use of someone's office that's right now being occupied by like a producer or a programmer or someone who's making the game. There's just not, like, places aren't built that way. But yeah, we're trying to find ways to sort of pipe you guys more into what's going on over there. So stay tuned, because I think we have some cool ideas. We just have to figure out the best way to implement them, because I think that there's a lot of interest in getting you guys more access to the team than you have right now, which is going to be hard. Cesar Khan asks, do you guys at SOE ever sleep? Sometimes we do. Not as much as we would like, but yeah, I mean, we try to get some rest. Like, at the end of the day, right, like, we're professionals and we've got to get our job done. And, no one goes to sleep when the server is down, like that sort of thing. No one goes to sleep when we're launching an alpha, that kind of thing. So, we're in the enviable position of working with people who are passionate enough that they don't want to go to sleep. We have to send them home, So it's pretty cool. But yeah, we're doing all right. Don't worry about us. We love this so much. Like, it's Saturday. This is my personal time. This is my personal stream. And this is what I want to do with my time, is hang out with you guys and talk. SOE should buy a tie-in to CSI and do a murder mystery during the event. That would be hilarious. If Paladin, I think that would be a pretty good idea, because we do live quests during the event, which are just live quests, and they're pretty fun. I bet we could do a murder mystery one. SOE Live is fun as hell, and now that it isn't at Bally's, it's even better. We agree to. Bally's was all right, but Planet Hollywood is way better. It's just a nicer hotel, a little better located, a better venue for us. Like, our space in it is better, and so it just makes the whole event better. There should be giveaways for SOE Live. Yeah, absolutely. We usually run a contest or 2 or 3 giving away tickets to SOE Live and flights. Last year we did My EQ Story, where you could record a video of how EverQuest impacted your life. And the stories that we got were insane. Like, there were five people at least that could have won. And, the choice between like the 2 or 3 top ones was really, really difficult. But yeah, like, we have a lot of ways to win. And then when you go, there's tons of giveaways. Like, we give a whole bunch of swag for people who show up, and then have like lots of random stuff that people can buy, And my favorite thing is, like, you have the ability to just get like autographs from people, and all the developers are just hanging out, signing autographs the whole time, and that's pretty cool. And we had that happen too at our event in January. Ravix, Dwarves and Landmark, talk to Brass. We will almost certainly have them eventually, but they're not anytime in the short term. Do you think it would be possible to have multiple game modes for Landmark? Yes. It's really just a question of balance and what the community wants. But we've definitely been talking about other rule sets. Poke Rosie and tell her we love the idea of glowing wings for Faye. Well, yeah, I can definitely do that, but you should just tweet her. She's on Twitter. She's at RosieRap, and she would love to hear that from you directly. Right, trying to catch up. Yeah, as our moderator has said, we're giving away some Prime Grappler codes. These are for Landmark. for the alpha. They give you these super awesome grappler codes. All you have to do is just be following the channel, so make sure you're following the channel. And thanks once again to Denver Tim for buying me this sketch. Bardsdale asks, oh, well, that's not for me. All right, trying to catch up with chat. Thank you guys so much for the incredibly good chat, the great questions. I apologize, I'm a little bit behind because there's just so many good questions. I play fighting games. Will you be looking at fighting games to do your balancing of classes? We tend to look everywhere when we're looking at balance. And we take our inspiration from all sorts of places. And I think especially EverQuest Next is going to have some mechanics that have not been seen in other games. It's going to be pretty awesome, just because the destructible world allows you to do some much different things than other games. So that's pretty awesome. Let's see. Imruk, good evening to you too. Nice of you to stop by. Let's see. Do I have any Spanish wine? Yeah, a little bit. We have some Riojas around and some Tempranillos. I am a bigger fan of Italian wine, to be honest, but I love how drinkable Spanish wine is. It's so hard. One thing I can say for sure is I've never had a bad Spanish wine, and I can't say that about any other country's wine. So it's pretty awesome. Let me see, trying to catch up. Would I like to be a special guest star in a machinima when Landmark drops? Of course, I would be happy to do that sort of thing. Just let me know what the details are. Will we have a fill tool in Landmark? Chromie asks. I think you can already, unless I'm misunderstanding you can already pretty much do that with the selection tool. You just highlight an area and then pick a material and then click on it and it just fills in. If that's not what you mean, then send me some more details. If it wasn't illegal to send alcohol in the mail or an illegal product, I would send you some old-fashioned tater shine from around here. Well, that sounds great. I do love some good moonshine. At my wedding, actually, we had a reception in this cool place. We got married in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and the coffee shop where we had our reception, they served all the mojitos, had homemade rum in them, so it was moonshine rum. That was pretty awesome. Will there be NPCs that represent families? Will we include LGBT families? There will certainly be NPCs that represent families, and I can't imagine why we wouldn't include LGBT families as well. Keeping in mind that the world is a fantasy world, so it's got its own weird stuff going on. But yeah, I mean, we don't discriminate or feel that anyone is any different from anyone else. So yeah, I would hope so. Please come to France. Lots of wine here. Oh yeah, I love France too. I've spent a fair amount of time in south of France, in Nice and Caen and Antibes. Love it. And unfortunately for me, when I was going to France a lot, I didn't know anything about wine. So I need to go back now that I've become a little bit more expert. We've seen the dragon on Serenity / Fault. I'm not sure. I would love if you could tweet me a picture of it. I've seen it. Was it the one that Colette featured on the last Landmark Live? I've seen a few really good dragons, and I would love to see some more. So, yeah, so let me know. And again, thank you guys so much for all the great questions. I'm trying to keep up. It's pretty awesome to just be able to chat with you guys. So I really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Back in 99, 2000, you had to be careful searching for Hotbox versus Hitbox, as the different searches came up with different results. Yeah, we found a few really awkward examples of that recently. Like if you ever do any work in web design, usually when people use placeholder text, there's Latin placeholder text that people use, lorem ipsum, blah blah blah. But so if you misspell lorem, Lorum, and then Google that, some really bad things happen. Don't do that. But yeah, it's pretty funny. Emily's heard around the office posts. Yeah, yeah, a fair amount of those are me, unfortunately. But no, I mean, it's the great thing about working in creative environments is the amount of just weird conversations, weird things that are happening, and just crazy stuff. So, all right, Dutch douche, we'll see you then. Mayballs, yeah, no, we're really excited about the idea of more interactivity with the team. So if you guys have any ideas of different ways we can do it, like we really learn a lot of this stuff from talking to players. Like, it's not like we sat down one day and we're like, we should make this Twitch thing happen, right? Like the way we learned about Twitch was from our players, and it's where people were. And so keep talking to us, tell us what you want to see, and we'll try to make it happen. Have I ever thought about having a group conversation on Vent or TeamSpeak while I stream? I have. I certainly have thought about bringing people onto the stream as well. I just am still very amateur at running streams in general, and I don't have a lot of time to put into this. So it is something that I'd like to do, and I will do in the future. Just gotta get it set up and gotta figure it out and figure out how to make it interesting and that sort of thing too. Uh, let's see. If we get a video from the development of water, I don't know. Like, it's really one of those things where it's when it's not working, it it doesn't show well. Like, and that's one of the things too. A lot of the stuff that we don't show or don't talk about, it's just because like there's nothing to show or no good way to show it, right? Right now, like all the stuff that's being figured out is all math. Basically, it's uh, not really even in the game. It's just being figured out in the background. So I just got a donation from Sacklari. Sacklari, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Uh, Here's to you. Uh-oh. Here come Luckland's fans. Nice to see you guys. Welcome. Uh, we love you too. Uh, Hi, Mrs. Luckland. Minecraft WB is another streamer on Twitch that I actually met, maybe last Friday, and primarily a Minecraft streamer and pretty freaking awesome stream. And he had just been gifted a copy of Landmark and had started playing it and was really really excited. And it's been really cool to kind of get to know him and his fan base. His fans are just incredible people. So if you guys aren't familiar, it's Luckland WB, or sorry, Minecraft WB, and go toss him a follow because uh, honestly, one of the most entertaining streams I've seen. I'd highly, highly recommend it. We're just trying to catch up with chat. Again, thank you guys so much for all the great questions. Psycho Liquid asks, are there plans for a mini map? Absolutely. A mini map or a compass or something to help out a little bit. We're in alpha, so we're working on it. But stay tuned, we'll have it. I promise. I promise we will have a mini map or a compass or something. Piri asks, how difficult is it for SOE to find a way between endless possibilities of working tools and an easy beginning for new people? It is actually, that's the kind of balance thing that's really one of the most difficult things to do, especially for us, right? Because we've been playing Landmark in some form or another for it's like well over a year at this point. And we just touched on this in one of the roundtables, maybe one that we've just recorded, so it may not be out yet, where the hardest thing for us is separating ourselves from the product because it's all we do, And so after you play and play and play and play for so long, it can be easy to forget what it is that is difficult in the early experience. And so we tend to ask that question a lot of our players. We ask a roundtable question: what do you think is really hard? So it is a huge balancing act, because we could make a tool that does every single thing. Like if you go shopping and buy kitchen gadgets, right? You can buy a million kitchen gadgets to slice any sort of fruit or vegetable or meat that you want, but you also could just use a knife to slice all of them. So the question is, which ones do you need a specialized tool versus which ones can you use the more general tools? So it's a great question. It's very, very difficult. Okay, trying to catch up. I discriminate against gnomes. They are too sneaky. I usually play like gnomes or little halflings or whatever, just because they're harder to click on in PvP. Oh, so many people have dragons. That's awesome. Let me see. Sorry, just trying to catch up with chat. What I love is how much chat there is, where it's not just asking me questions, but you guys just talking to each other, and it's really like it's fascinating to like read that as well. I get distracted. Toronto Tig says, "I'm a web designer. I can confirm the lorem ipsum response." I'm going to tell our web designer and our producers on Monday about that. They'll get a kick out of it, because yeah, it was our creative director for web who told me about it, and he's a funny Irish guy, and he was just like, "Yeah, I made that mistake the other day, and I misspelled it, and oh my god." Shade Strike says, "Can I have props I can interact with? I want chairs that I can right click and sit on." Uh, I think that's something that will happen. It's just one of those things that we've got to get. There are much more important things right now than that. We would much rather have guilds and claim permissions and things like that. But yeah, I think that it's coming. Yes, and Sacklar has typed in the word that you don't want to Google. You definitely don't want to Google it. Because it is a little awkward. It would be awesome if we shared a bit of our frustrations, not in general, but once in a while when we want to scream. I think that would be great for giving us a more complete picture. John Quinn, I think we do. The great thing is that, we have a really good community. So, our biggest frustration is just, delivering things. Like, it's really frustrating this week when we couldn't get the group permissions in, the permissions onto claims. Like, we really wanted that to happen this week, and we missed it. That's frustrating. For people who are like living and breathing this game all the time, and it was so close, so close. But that's the kind of thing that is frustrating for us. The rest of it, we're having a really good time. Like, this product, Landmark, is going really well. People love it. We love it, and it's wonderful to see how well it's received and that sort of thing. And we know from past experience that that's not always the case on a game like this. A lot of games have a much rockier road, and we've been on those roads before on other projects. So we're having a great time, like, working with you guys, because everyone is sort of on the same team and going in the same direction and feels the same way. And what I would really, if you take anything away from today, what I would really encourage is, to remember how good the community is right now, and remember that as we go to closed beta and we go to open beta and we start getting much broader groups of people in, that a lot of people are going to be like less mature, less sophisticated, more annoying than the folks that are around now, and it's going to be up to us to set the example for those folks on what this community needs to look like. So remember that you guys are the leaders. We named those stupid founders packs like Trailblazer packs, But we're serious. Like, you guys are trailblazers. Like, you're the ones who are going to set the direction for this community, and we really appreciate that. And it's a responsibility that we hope you guys take as seriously as we do. So just trying to catch up. Question: Space dragons. I'm in favor. I don't know that we'll have them anytime soon. Minecraft WB makes my 3-month-old cry, so I can't watch him anymore. Well, he's very enthusiastic. I'll certainly say that. Uh, it's pretty entertaining to watch him, and I have, to be honest, had to mute it once or twice while I was doing something else. He gets super excited. It's awesome, but I think especially if you're a kid and you don't understand what's going on, it could just sound like someone is yelling. Oh, my camera is doing weird things every once in a while, like changing colors. I wonder what that's all about. Uh, Tanking philosophy. Do you like the idea of being hard to kill and doing low damage at first and building up over time until you're doing more than the regular DPSers? I mean, to me, like, I love tanks, and I love that idea of just being the defensive character who enables people to do their thing. It's much more of like a support role in many games. Uh, but yeah, I think that's a cool idea the way that you said it there. If one wanted to build a guide for this game and sell it, can they? I only ask due to legalities. It depends quite a bit uh, on what the venue is, what the strategy is. If you want to send me an email, Harvester, about that with more details, then I can talk to you offline. Now is not the appropriate time to comment on it, but yeah, I would be happy to chat about it. Yet Hui says, I'm a computer adult, just wanted to say thanks. The tools have been fairly easy to figure out. I just have to keep a cheat sheet. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's, really the thing, right? Like, if we make the controls too hard to use or the tools too hard to use, then people who are already intimidated to play like an online game aren't going to stick around. Like, they're not going to be able to get the hang of it fast enough. And over time, that's going to damage our ability to, have a successful game and to make enough money. Will there be a modification to the rotation for 45 degrees in addition to 90 degrees? Imruk, I've talked about this before, and one of the things that's really important here is the balance between advanced versus beginner things, right? And so having voxels at sort of unusual angles, like, probably works really well for advanced users, but can be really difficult for people who don't know what they're doing. I think the analogy that works really well is if you imagine in SimCity, right? When you're playing SimCity, you want to lay everything out on grids perfectly efficiently, right? And so the roads are always at right angles. And if you start doing the diagonal roads, then you just end up wasting so many blocks on the screen and creating all this inefficiency. And so for people who don't know what they're doing or who are just learning, they'll make those odd angles just arbitrarily without realizing the implication of them. So we really have to be careful and make sure that we're creating a situation that works for people of all skill levels. I told you, do not Google that. Let's see. Trying to catch up on the chat. So for folks who are just joining me, my name is Omid Daryani. I'm the senior brand manager of the EverQuest franchise, which means EverQuest, EverQuest 2, Landmark, and EverQuest Next. So if you have any questions about those, gaming in general, Scotch, whatever you want to talk about, I was actually going to play games, but as happens often on my streams, the conversation becomes interesting enough that I'm just answering questions from chat. So I'll see if I get caught up. Maybe I'll play some games. Is it the intention of SOE to give us pixel-level tools to be able to create items as intricate as props? Firefoot Duran says. So the tricky thing is that we do this in other games. Like, we let people make props, but they do it with tools like Maya and Blender and Studio Max, because that's what those tools are for. And we have every intention of letting people do that. So, you'll eventually be able to create props with Maya, and then submit them into Player Studio and get them into the game. I don't think that we intend to have tools inside of Landmark that would facilitate that kind of art creation, just because we would essentially be building Maya, and that's a whole other, bag of worms on its own. Bag of worms. That's a weird thing to say. Better drink more scotch. Oh, a new Farscape movie. That's awesome. Saz, yeah. Once we have the social structures in, that's going to help a lot with integrating new players into the community. We're really, really excited about that, and hopefully we'll have that in place before we get to closed beta. Alpha, the kind of player that we're expecting to be in alpha, honestly, is you guys. There's 100, almost 200 people in here now just sitting here talking about this game. You're people with patience and interest, in a different way than the average person who's going to play this game. So we expect, you folks to kind of be leaders and that sort of thing. But in alpha, we wanted to keep it limited to people with that kind of patience, because we want people who are going to contribute to the idea of the game, not just playing the game. And closed beta is going to get a little broader, but it's still going to be, a lot of that, right? A lot of people who are passionate enough to, really put their time in, and to put their money in, right? To identify themselves as people who want to contribute to this world, and that's really what's going to carry that forward. But yeah, once we get past closed beta, we're really going to need the community to build those structures to teach players how to play and and learn how to exist in online communities, because it's has its own etiquette, its own protocol, its own style, and it's really cool. Yeah, Zedekiah says, build your guilds from the current community, you'll never find better people. That's true, but you're definitely going to need more people over time. So, what I would love to see is, in a few years, every guild has five people that are in this room, basically, leading a guild of 100 people who aren't. That is going to build the best community possible. Sephiroth says, the only gripe I have is the camera controls feel too restricted. Ability to tilt the camera, have it directly above the character, get those perfect angles, or to have an unlocked camera. And yeah, Sephiroth, these are all things, and Sephiroth, by the way, do you stream? I'm not sure, but is certainly a person who has been contributing a lot to the community lately, and is a really interesting person to chat with. But yeah, the goal is to have more robust camera tools. If you look at the what do you call them, the time-lapse videos that we've done, right? Those all require sort of a setback camera, aside from your individual player camera. So the goal is to give you guys that tool as well, and because of that, we definitely want to have things fixed cameras that you can place and better camera control. So all that stuff. Again, we're in alpha and we're trying to refine it. Nabal says, with the roundtable in mind, will the community have an impact in decision making when it comes to combat systems? If it feels clunky, etc. Yeah, absolutely. And PvP, I would say, is one of those places. PvP and maybe crafting are probably the places where we care the most about what the community says. Not that there's any area where we don't, but because PvP and crafting are social systems, right? It's all players interacting with each other one way or another. it's much more important to understand what players think than about like how the quests are, or things like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, we'll definitely, as we get more into PvP, be doing roundtables on specific topics within PvP, and we want to take the same level of feedback we've been taking on other stuff when we get there as well. Harvester, how can I get your email? Well, for now, can you send me a message on Twitch? That would be the easiest way to do it, and we can converse through there and figure it out. Yeah, Prima EverQuest Next Landmark Strategy Guide. That's funny. I mean, you know, it's the sort of thing where obviously, like strategy guides, people are going to want to create them, right? Uh, and we've kind of joked around with the folks at Wikia, like, how do you make a Wikia for Landmark, right? It's just way, way different than making a Wikia for World of Warcraft or EverQuest 2. Things move around. Like, it's much more about teaching people mechanics than it is about teaching people where things are. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see what people come up with. If I could do whatever I want with no financial pressure, what game would I create? What genre and story, and so on? Oh, geez. I'm sure that's a great question. I don't have a great answer off the top of my head. Uh, I think it just changes every few years. It changes, to whatever seems really cool at the moment. Like, and that's something that one thing about the game industry that I always have thought is interesting is, you know, people come into the game industry with a lot of ideas for games that they want to make, and almost no one gets to choose what kind of games are made. Very you know some very indie game companies get to do that, right? Like Banished, which was one of my favorite games I played recently, is just one guy, so he got to make this game that the pitch for it is actually like pretty boring, but when he made it, it turned out to be awesome. And you know what that game is at any given time just changes a lot. So yeah, I don't have a great answer for you, Piri, offhand, but I'm sure I can think of 10 or 20 of them over time that I thought would be a great idea. Let's see, trying to catch up. Sorry, I got behind. My wife says she'll sleep with me for a Trailblazer key. Well, that's very sweet. Uh, yeah, Harvester, please just send me a message here on Twitch. That would probably be the easiest. I was just going to wait for EQ Next to invest money, but I've been watching you. Now I'm going to get a Trailblazer. I may be on the couch for a while. Well, thank you, Saklar. Uh, I think that Landmark and EverQuest Next are going to be very joined games and very joined communities. And, you know, we're really excited to have people sort of get in on the ground floor. I mean, I came to SOE to work on this project, like, because I was so excited about it. And, I feel like a lot of people are sort of signing up for the community that way as well, which is really gratifying. Has there been any consideration for gamepad support? Uh, that's a good question. I actually have not ever thought to ask that of anyone. I'm certain that consideration has been given. I'm just not sure what the answer is there. There's obviously some complexity to doing gamepads with PC games, but EverQuest Next will eventually be on PlayStation 4, so that's going to require a gamepad. So I'm sure some amount of thinking is going into it. Michael asks, are they going to set something up to allow a user to snap to grid for ease of building, or give them the option to not have grid? I think that's already in. I want to say it's just, the command is just G to switch between being on the grid where, it's point, point, point versus, free flowing on the grid. Yeah, this is a great conversation about tanking, by the way. I know I'm not really talking about it that much. The tanking mechanics in EverQuest Next that I've seen so far are awesome. And a lot of them are going to surprise you guys a lot. Things that I've never seen in a game before, that no one has seen in a game before. and they're really freaking cool, but we're not ready to discuss yet. I mean, it's all still early design stuff, but really, really cool. Finney asks, will any parts of Landmark be integrated into EverQuest? Or EverQuest Next? Absolutely. A lot is going to get integrated into EverQuest Next. We're going to be doing building contests where people can actually create things, and we'll take some of the best stuff and put that into EverQuest Next. We're also using the same tools to build EverQuest Next, so a lot of stuff is just going to make it over there. Let's see. Caesar asks, for those who have not played the original EverQuest games, could we get an explanation video of lore and races? I ask because, yeah, it's hard to read too much text. Yes, actually, this is one of the things. Since I've come on at SOE, I've been really concerned with making sure that we can tell that specific thing, because EverQuest has been around for 15 years, and I feel like for some people, if you're lucky, you know who Furiona is, and if you're a little bit more familiar, you know who Nagafen is. And then, unless you play really seriously, you're not going to know much past those two characters. And so, yeah, we definitely want to start telling more of that story. And we've got some stuff coming up that I think you'll like. Let's see. Is Maya hard to learn? How much does it cost? I'm not an artist, Zafira. Also, nice to see you. But I imagine that it's fairly hard to learn. I also believe it's not that cheap. Oh, Bardtail's got it. Let's see. How long is it going to take before caves go in Landmark? I think it's going to be a little while, but it's something that we want to get in fairly soon. We just posted an update to the roadmap, so that will be the best source for that sort of information. Will mail move instantly, or will there be a delay? I'm not sure, Onshu, what the design on that is just yet. So stay tuned. Zedeca says, can SOE put the old smoothing tool back in under a different name? You can do the same things with the new smoothing tool like we did before. I don't know if we would want to have both tools in there. It just becomes a question of complexity, really. Because we can put infinite different tools in. I think the example I used earlier was like kitchen gadgets, where you can have a kitchen gadget that does every single thing you can imagine, but a lot of them you can do with a knife. So it becomes part of the balance to figure out if we need those tools or not. When will all the tiers be implemented? I believe, Indian Feather, that we're trying to do that for closed beta, because it's something we'll need to do when we do a wipe, because we'll have to procedurally generate all that stuff. But I'm not 100% sure it's going to be closed beta, but it is something we want to get in there very soon. And having caves and things like that in the ground, it goes hand in hand with that. Wick says, can it talk about what the picture is for creation migration from Landmark to Next? Is there an approval process? What about the risks of having your creations bought, recreated, and resold? Well, that's a lot, so I'm just going to skim on it, but we can talk about it in more depth later. Basically, you'll be able to take your creations, like if you build a guild house or your house sort of things, over to Next without very much of anything, right? Because we're not going to approve every single person's house that goes in. But housing in Next is going to work way differently than it does in Landmark. It's not going to be open world for the most part. So we don't care that much about what you're doing in an instance. But for having things that are going to be part of the world, then there will be some amount of approval to it. And a lot of that stuff's going to get there by winning contests, but we also have some cool ideas for other ways to have things get into the world that are going to be interesting. Let's see. Maintenance. Any word on maintenance fees, what they're going to cost? No, not yet. We're not ready to announce. We're still trying to figure out what we think works perfectly. We have a system design that we're pretty happy with, so we'll be rolling it out fairly soon. But it's going to require a lot of testing. So even whatever the first system is not anywhere close to the last system for maintenance and upkeep. Uh, let's see. Is there a way from keeping the claim drop down from dropping down when one is building? John Quinn, that's a great point. What he's talking about is when you go onto a claim, there's that little thing that drops down that says it's so and so's claim, uh, which is really useful when you're going to other people's claims, but is kind of annoying on your claim when you're trying to build in that area, and it keeps dropping down over where you are. So yeah, we're looking at that. Like the tough thing is like what the correct implementation is for mitigating that issue. Let's see. Do you think it'll be likely that we might see some sort of testing in Next before the year is done, or will we see a nice chunk of what we test here be also for Next? So I don't think we're going to get into any sort of public testing for EverQuest Next this year. I mean, it's not 100% guaranteed, but I think that's what the development schedule is looking like. But yeah, I mean, Landmark is a test bed for EverQuest Next. Even though the systems are going to be a lot different, the worlds function on a lot of the same principles. So, we're going to take the feedback and player experience and what people like, and adapt that for EverQuest Next. And it's one of those things too where we started off with Landmark, and I think it's going to change EverQuest Next from our original vision. I mean, how can it not, right? Like there has not ever been a project where we've had, thousands and thousands and eventually hundreds of thousands and millions of people in like an alpha version or, like one version of the game before we got to, the other game. So we're absolutely going to take all kinds of learning out of Landmark and adapt it to EverQuest Next. Oh, and that scotch is done. Let's see. Are there going to be diversified permissions on claims, like if you want to make an exploration build? Yeah, I mean, we're looking at all different levels of permissions for claims, and it's, we can do all sorts of stuff, so it's just a question of designing which pieces are most useful and which ones aren't useful. But yeah, like the kind of stuff you're talking about, will definitely happen. Will it be viable for you guys to eventually add an unlockable advanced tools option where we could play Photoshop the MMO? I mean, it's certainly possible. Whether it's viable or not remains to be seen, right? A lot of that depends on demand for this, right? And that's one of the things, like, in a system where we're listening to our fans, then the thing that makes something viable is when the world has evolved to the point where it is viable and we're seeing demand from people. Right now, I don't think there is demand for that kind of level of tools. There might be in a few years, but yeah, it's tough to say right now. But we definitely wouldn't close the door on that concept. Let's see. Sorry, just trying to catch up with the chat. Lots of great questions, guys. I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Would there be a possibility to create user-made quests instances for EverQuest Next Landmark? Absolutely, Tubby Vermin. And again, I love that name. Absolutely. Not only will it be possible, but it is a core piece of the design. We want people to be able to build quests, instances, raids for both of them. And we think that it's going to create just an incredible amount of gameplay, right? Like, let's just say, for example, that, there's one instance we want to do. The Mad Gods Temple, right? And we ask people to design, their version of that, and we get, like, let's say 10 versions of, this encounter that are awesome. we can actually put all 10 into the game, and just different times that you encounter the Mad God's Temple, it plays differently because it was designed by a different person. Uh, that's generally not possible with a game design team just because of limited resources. But the long-term goal is that you can play and you'll never play the same piece of content twice. Is there any news on the guide program? No, there's not any news yet. We will almost certainly have a guide program, and the community team will set it up and run it, and it'll be great like the other ones. But I haven't heard anything about starting it up just yet. Yeah, Dio with a nice point on Banished. It is a beautiful game. It's very relaxing too because there's not really that much happening, but it's just sort of fun to watch. I was kind of hoping to stream it today because I finally have a city where everyone is not just dying. I had been naming all my cities Deathville while I learned to play. This one I felt good about, so I named it Lifeville. And so far, everyone is still alive. Well, except the old people. Let's see, so Denverton says, I know you need to make it for the community, but don't give in to make things too easy. A little difficulty makes a hard game have some durability. Absolutely. I mean, finding the balance is really the important thing there. And it's one of the things I think that the tiered system is going to do for us is, the game can be much easier on the surface, right? Where people need the game to be easier. But then once you get down further and further, and this was actually one of the ideas that came from the players when we were talking about death penalties, is that the death penalties could get more severe the further down in the world you are, right? When you're actually like playing at the hardest levels, then you could actually have like much more significant elements of risk, which is pretty cool. I'm really just enjoying the chat. I'm sorry I'm behind because I actually want to read the stuff that isn't questions because it's so interesting. But thanks, guys. So real quick, for people who are just joining us, my name is Ovid Daryani. I'm the senior brand manager of the EverQuest franchise, which means EverQuest, EverQuest 2, EverQuest Next, and Landmark. So if you have questions about any of them, I'm happy to answer those. Happy to talk about gaming in general or scotch. And speaking of which, I just got another drink purchase from Denver Ken, who says, Scotch tasting at SOE Live 2014. I will be there, and I will be drinking scotch. So I absolutely agree that should happen. So thank you very much. I'm going to pour myself another scotch real quick. And for this one, I am going to drink this is a Glenfiddich 12. And so this is, I think, the second best-selling scotch in the world behind Glenlivet 12. I don't like it as much as I like Glenlivet, but it has just a slightly different taste to it. But I do like it. It's really cool. And Terry Michaels, the senior producer of EverQuest Next and Landmark, got me a bottle of Glenfiddich 15 for Christmas. So thank you very much, sir. This is for you. And hopefully I'll see you at SOE Live. That is nice. It's like a little more, I don't know how you'd say that, like herby than or earthy maybe than Glenlivet, but tasty. I just had a great idea since I'm not playing games. How about I'll move the chat onto the screen that's in front of me so I can look at the camera. Okay, so let me catch up on the chat a little bit. Let's see. Nabal says, are we going to have to pay for EverQuest Next when it gets released if you bought a Trailblazer pack, etc.? So the programs for EverQuest Next and Landmark have to be separate. and this is for legal reasons primarily, because we can't promise anything for EverQuest Next right now because we don't even have a release date. Like we don't have a release time frame, so we can't. Even if we wanted to, we couldn't say, yeah, if you bought something in Landmark, you totally get something in EverQuest Next, because then we have to start putting dates on things, and we just can't. So yeah, the programs are going to be completely separate. They are separate games. We don't know if we're going to do founders packs or anything like that for EverQuest Next. Like when we get there, we'll start designing it. But to be honest, since I'm in charge of that, no thought has been put into the EverQuest Next alpha program just yet, like how we would want to invite people and that sort of thing. We're just not there yet. Question, will there be a way to scale templates like we do with props? That's a tough one, and the reason, because we get asked the question a lot, so we know it's something people want to do. The trick is that when you scale props, right, like a prop is a fixed item. When you scale a, hello, Live It Up, when you scale an entire template, right, you're scaling a whole bunch, like you're basically scaling a whole bunch of Legos. And so as we're shrinking it, we have to make sure that they all fit. And if you've ever like shrunk a responsive web screen or a page, right, like there are certain proportions where things don't make sense. Like some of the individual voxels are going to become too small, right, or too big, or just fit funny, no matter what you do, and you're not going to get a good result out of it. So because of that, we have to be really mindful as we're going forward with like scaling on templates. So we're going to try, but can't promise anything. Let's see. And also Denver Ken, if you wanted me to tell one of the stories that are below, just let me know which one. I'd be happy to tell you. Happy to tell one of those stories. So for folks who don't know, I do take donations in the form of you can purchase a drink for me. I do like to drink scotch, and when someone does purchase one, then I will tell one of the stories that are below. So they're just sort of down in the bottom of the screen. Or I'll just talk about whatever you guys want. I've been in the game industry for about 16 years at this point, and I've had some very crazy experiences. So I'm always happy to tell some of these just weird, disastrous stories. Cander's Mayhem says, in this chat alone, we've had 4 or 5 questions about advanced tools. How can you justify saying there isn't demand for them? I mean, I didn't say that there wasn't demand for them. It's a question of how much demand for them is there in general, right? Like, I would say at this point that the people who have played Landmark comprise less than 1% of all people who will ever play Landmark, right? Because we're in a really small alpha, and this game is going to get much, much, much bigger. And so, the people who are playing in the alpha we consider to be the most advanced, sophisticated fans that we have, and very likely, the most sophisticated fans that we will have over the course of the product. And so it's not shocking to me at all that there are requests for it, in this group of people. The question is, when we get to, that much broader group of people, is that demand going to hold up against what the broader group of people want? So, it's really just a question of value. We only have so many hours to do things. Is that going to be the way that serves the community the best? But, if you feel strongly, which you do, the way that you can get what you want is to, continue making the case for it and showing us that there's the demand. Because, yeah, I don't mean to dismiss you at all. It's just hard to tell for us at this point. Serious question. Has the idea of microvoxels changed the way a few of the dev artists consider their official builds. Yes, microvoxels has changed the way that everyone is viewing everything at this point, which is great. We didn't know that they existed, and so now we're trying to wrap our heads around what that means. Sog, am I saying that right? Sog asks, as brand manager, am I working to expand the scope of the term EverQuest so that it become a marketing framework for a larger variety of games? It seems like the toolkit you guys are making for Next and Landmark opens the option for new stories and product diversification. This is a very excellent question. I assume you have some background in this stuff. Yeah, one of my goals is, and I think probably in the last year or two, you've probably heard the term EverQuest franchise a lot more than in the past. And that's very much intentional, because we knew that Next and Landmark are going to be huge. And we're really excited, that EverQuest and EverQuest 2 have remained very, very, very good brands for us. Like we don't talk about them as much as Landmark right now because Landmark has kind of gone. But EverQuest and EverQuest 2 are huge, thriving, great communities. Just wonderful games. If you guys haven't played, they're both free to play. You should check them out. And so, yeah, our goal is to diversify and to really grow EverQuest as a brand so that we can do a lot more with it. Yeah, absolutely. I think you should be looking at. We're going to make an announcement really soon about a new partnership that is pretty exciting, and hopefully is just the first of many. Let's see. Infamous Yuddy, that's a funny name, says, will SOE be sending out beta invites to people who applied through the site at all? Absolutely. People have been applying for beta for a while, and we've been collecting that group for a while. And it really is going to come to the number of people that get invited from that sign up is really just to do with server capacity and how many people the development team wants in. And that's for closed beta. So that'll be, when we start closed beta, which is on or before March 31st. And from that point, we'll be sending out emails probably every week, inviting people from that beta pool. One thing WoW does is run commercials. Has there been any discussion of that for EverQuest Next? And I don't mean commercials that run on some obscure channel at 3 a.m. Yeah, we always talk about commercials. So one thing that is really important to understand about marketing is that television commercials are really, really expensive. Number one, just running them so that they're not just at 3 a.m. costs a ton of money per view. You guys know what Super Bowl commercials cost. Obviously, that's the exaggerated end of it, but commercials are not cheap. And then on top of that, you actually have to produce the commercial, which can be very expensive on its own. And it's scary because, ask yourself, so let's just take The Daily Show for an example, a show that, pretty much everyone likes. If we put an EverQuest ad on The Daily Show, who's going to see it? And it's really hard to say exactly who that is because the people who watch The Daily Show, it's a really broad group of people. For the cost of running one ad on The Daily Show, we can run ads on Curse for an entire year, right? And then, does that do better or worse for us? Like, you can certainly make the argument that Curse's fans are going to be, much more likely to like EverQuest. So it's probably a better value. So, this is just the sort of the balance that comes up every time we talk about TV. It would be really cool, and it's something that I never, ever would take off the table, but it's something that is hard to justify. You can see me in my glasses. That's awesome. Let's see. And yeah, thanks again for this great chat, guys. Like it's really fun, and I really appreciate all the great questions. I'm finding newfound respect for you. Well, thank you, Slaythar Silcom. Another great name. You guys have like really good names too. Uh, it's cracking me up. Do we have to log out of the game for the Prime Grappler to be delivered? No, it should just automatically pop up, but we've been getting a lot of reports of issues with it just since the last patch, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's just kind of bugged. If you don't have it in a day or two, I would contact our customer service department and they can help you out with it. Yeah, and sorry, like I'm a little bit behind on the chat, so it's like a normal Twitch delay, but I'm probably about a third, or two-thirds of the way down on the scroll because I'm just trying to, talk to everybody because the questions are so good, and you know, there are also questions that can't really just be glossed over. They're not just yes or no questions. There's like a lot of nuance to the discussion, and so I'm trying to make sure that people who are taking the time to ask these questions get them answered as well. Let's see. Can we make the progression in game somehow better? It seems like you get a few tools and then progression is done, Indian Feather says. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that we're doing is really looking at progression. I would say that the progression that's in there right now is, I don't know, 10% of what it's going to feel like when this game is done. Just because like we are we're much more focused on getting systems in the game than progression. And so, right now we're getting the feedback from a lot of people, oh, I've done everything there is to do, so I'm waiting for more progression. And that's totally understandable. How do you get to become the director of the story of a game? I'm an amateur writer and would love to write stories for games. Caesar, that's actually probably one of the most difficult jobs to get, just because there are a lot of folks who are kind of in the same place that you are. People who end up on the creative design teams typically are game designers that are good writers, right? So they start off in sort of and I mean, this is just good advice in general. Like, if you're a game designer, get any game design position you can. Like, people do end up specializing in systems or lore or story kind of stuff or level design over time, but you just got to get in somewhere and start. And then once you come in, then it's really easy to sort of find your feet in the thing that you do. And really, it's just like anything. It's all about progression, right? You start off and you're the guy who's writing the text for quests, and then from there, you've written enough cool quests that people say, well, maybe you can design the story for this area, and then before long, you're writing the concepts for games. But keep in mind that not that many people get to do that. It's a really competitive field, and it's a really competitive part of the field. Daystars asks, were the devs equally surprised with the inlaid pattern trick? Yes, we were very surprised about that. That's really cool stuff. I mean, we're not surprised that these things are happening. We knew for sure that players were going to come up with cooler stuff and stuff that we hadn't thought of, but it's pretty awesome. And we love it every time it happens. Bardtail says, the funny thing is when you ask about WoW, people know what it is. When you ask about EverQuest, they're like, what is that? Is that new? And it's true. I mean, if you go back to 2002, if you ask people about EverQuest, then EverQuest was what WoW is right now. And that's, one of the things that I'm hoping to change is as we go, there will be that awareness of what EverQuest is again. That'll be really cool. Let's see. Sogar Gofen, hey, nice to see you. My pleasure streaming. Thanks for coming by. Dutch Douche says YouTube is more popular than actual television these days. You're right. It's certainly more relevant in a lot of ways. TV is having a lot of difficulty. Primarily because it takes them a long time to adapt to things. Like people who become popular on YouTube and Twitch and things like that, like, can rise and fall very quickly. It doesn't require a talent agent and then a manager and then a network development executive and then the production of a pilot and then all these. Because I've worked on television before, and the process to start from an idea and get to a finished product takes years. And that's just too much time for what's happening these days. If you put an EverQuest ad on Big Bang Theory, which would cater close to your demographic, it would be expensive, but be able to attract those who aren't already MMO players visiting a site like hers. That's true, but for every person who would actually watch that ad and then say, oh crap, I'm going to check out this EverQuest thing, and remember to check it out, and then get on their computer and then go download it and sign up and all of that stuff, there's going to be, I don't know, 1,000, 10,000 that don't. And we have to pay for all of them, even the ones that don't ever go. And that's really where the expense comes from, right? Like, the network is selling you all of those eyeballs, not just the ones you care about. So it's really, really tricky. But yeah, the Big Bang Theory is obviously a good place to go. Have I ever tried Wild Turkey American Honey? The first time, yes, Robot. The first time that I did was when Akil Hooper, who is the creative director for EverQuest and EverQuest 2, to apologize for leaving me in a conversation that he was supposed to get me out of about an hour before he did. Actually, he didn't even get me out of it. Someone else got me out of the conversation and brought me over, and I'm like, dude, what the hell? And it was at SOE Live, so no one involved was completely sober. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. And he pulls one of those little nips of it out of his pocket and hands it to me. He's like, I'm sorry, here you go. I'm like, oh, great, just what I wanted. Warm wild turkey. But I still drank it. Let's see. Yeah, Dio, that's a great point. And gets to some of the concerns about TV. Zedeca says, I'm a published author. Who would I have to contact to find out if I could write some of the lore? If you send me a message with your contact information and some samples, I can get that to the right person for you. Foxtrot Lore says, pour me some wine. Oh, well, I'm not drinking wine at the moment. I'm drinking scotch. Young people will start to watch less TV. Young people have already started watching a lot less TV and a lot more YouTube. And Twitch is the next thing like that. If I had to sum up, what would I say the core game of Landmark is? I would say that there are two big things. There's exploring and collecting, and building. So, this idea of going out and finding all the things, and that part's not really in the game yet, but you're gonna go out and find all the stuff in the game. All the recipes, all the materials is all going to be explorable. And then, building, like going back and collaborating with people and creating these giant projects. So yeah, I would say those are the two big pieces. Just trying to catch up. I'm falling further and further behind. Thanks, guys. It was a lot of very nice compliments, and I really appreciate it, both for me and the team. And I gotta say, the team that I'm working with at SOE is just incredible. It's a very passionate group of people. It's really awesome. Shade Strike says, please tell me progression is going to be horizontal for combat as opposed to vertical. Yes, for the most part, horizontal progression is what we're looking at. I mean, there's some amount of vertical progression, but it's not nearly as much as in like World of Warcraft or EQ or Dungeons and Dragons. Much more about like collecting all the different fighting styles or all the different things you can do, as opposed to like building deep specialties. Don Solm says, does anyone know, can I already play Alpha if I buy a Founders Pack? Yes, you can. If you buy the Explorer or Trailblazer pack, you can get into the alpha. It's already going. We would love to have you. And if you buy the Settler pack, then that's for closed beta, which will start on or before March 31st. Okay, I'm going to try to speed up and catch up a little bit. But yeah, this is just great conversation, and I really appreciate it. Oh, and I just got another donation, another drink purchased. I'm still in the middle of this one, so you'll have to forgive me. It may be a little bit before I pour another one, but this is from Maribel, who would like to hear my story about why I love Lando Calrissian. And if you look below, there's a few things that sort of like conversations that stories I can tell about my career, and one of them is why I love Lando Calrissian. So let me catch up with the questions, and then I will tell that story. Lando Calrissian is my favorite Star Wars character, and that is often a very controversial thing. But let's see, do I ever feel like doing something other than EQ related Q&As? Wouldn't mind seeing me play a game. Oak, yeah, I totally agree. Actually, generally have been playing games on the stream, but this time and last time the questions have come in so furiously and the conversation has been so good that I've just kind of stopped playing to talk to people. And I could go either way on it. Like I really like playing games, obviously, but I also just like talking to folks. And obviously there's enough interest in these questions that they need to be answered. If I had to remove one trope or cliche from the entirety of the video game industry, what would it be? Geez, that is a tough question. I don't know offhand. That's a really good question. I'll think about it. Do I worry about net neutrality as my job is highly reliant on the internet? Absolutely. I think that we all should be worried about net neutrality. It is very important topic, and you know, if we don't resolve that, then we're going to have a whole lot of different problems. What percent human, what percent robot would I say Steve Klug is? Well, he is 100% machine. That is for sure. That dude is incredible. Let's see. In making landmarks, if we have a really good idea but not the know-how to make them, will the devs take that into consideration, perhaps refine our rough workmanship? Is originality or relevance to NORAD being taken into consideration? Yeah. In some cases, I think that we may refine some of that stuff, but I think for sure the better strategy is to get together with other folks and work together to figure that out. And then originality and relevance to Norath for the landmark part of the contest, I wouldn't say is an issue. We're really looking for a very broad variety of things. We'll be doing a lot of Norath related contests though. So don't you worry about that. Let's see. Who doesn't love Lando? It turns out a lot of people don't really like Lando. Because Lando's kind of a scumbag is how he's presented in the story. So I'll go ahead and tell the story now. And cheers, I appreciate the drink. But Lando is my favorite character in Star Wars because he is just incredible. Like, he gets a bad rap for betraying everybody, but in reality, he's just, at the point that he betrays Han, he's got to look out for thousands and thousands of people, in this business that he's running. And so he's making this very pragmatic, strategic decision that's good, Like, who cares about this one guy, who's just going to be taken hostage or taken prisoner? And then as it becomes clear that Vader's intentions are much less fair than Lando thought, and much less honest than Lando thought, he takes it upon himself to figure this out, and he ends up rescuing everybody, right? Like, he rescues Luke after Darth Vader has cut his hand off and thrown him under the city. Uh, he goes back, like, he's responsible for Han being encased in carbonite, but then he goes and spends, it's unclear how long that is, but a significant amount of time going undercover to break Han out of Jabba's palace, and in the process, like, they kill Jabba and end this like crime cartel. uh, you know One thing too that just is really surprising is, like, Lando destroys the Death Star. If Luke Skywalker hadn't killed the Emperor and hadn't redeemed Darth Vader, even if Luke Skywalker didn't exist in Return of the Jedi, uh, Lando would have killed the Emperor and Darth Vader and resolved this problem. So in the process of doing everything, Lando has run this like very successful business. He has saved that business and the lives of all those people. He saved Han's life, Chewie's life, Princess Leia. He kept them from being imprisoned by Darth Vader. He destroyed the Empire. Like, the guy is freaking, just balls out amazing. Not the most popular choice for character. And certainly when I was a kid, obviously, I was a Luke Skywalker fan. And then as I grew up a little bit more into like college and stuff, I became more of a Han Solo fan. And then I think as I've become a little bit older and more pragmatic, like, Lando is he's really kind of a baller. So yeah, Lando is my favorite Star Wars character. So cheers. Here's to you, Billy D. Williams. Also, Billy D. Williams. Come on. All right, let me catch up on these questions. Who is the best person to contact to get a specific broken prop removed? The best thing to do is to post on the forums and, the bugs forum, and report it as a /bug to get that done. When will more details on EQN classes be released? Oh God, apparently the conversation about Lando has caused the chat to move a lot faster. When will more details on EQN classes be released? Soon, but not super soon. I would guess that we will probably start talking about EverQuest Next in more detail around SOE Live, but we'll have to stay tuned for that. Like, it's something that that we want to do for sure, but we definitely need to make sure that Landmark is sort of off and running and doing its thing, and that we can really, really, really focus on it. So I just received another drink purchase from Lovin Gaming, I think. So thank you very much. It doesn't say which, if any, story you would like to hear, so let me know if there's one you like. And that was pretty good timing because I just ran out of that Glenfiddich. So let me switch back to the Cal Ela, which I think of the ones here is among my favorites. And so here's cheers to you, my friend. Ooh, that one's so good. All right, let's see. Was Landmark a spontaneous idea while planning EverQuest Next, or was it planned from the beginning? That's a great question. The answer is that it was a spontaneous idea. We were just building EverQuest Next, and one of the things that was sort of on the whiteboard as it would be really cool if we could do this was making the world destructible, making the world out of voxels. And so much of the development of EverQuest Next was figuring out if that could be done. And once we figured it out, we were really excited we had our direction. But to build that world, so the way that you normally build a level in a game is it's like building a movie set, right? You only have to build the surfaces that people see. It's like there's nothing under the ground, right? there's nothing behind the wall. It's whatever it is, you only build what's behind the wall if there's a door that goes around. So it's all flat. And if you're going to build a world where you can destroy the ground, you naturally have to be able to answer the question, well, what's under the ground, right? And then you can destroy that, so you have to answer the question, what's under that? And so to build this world required us to build tools that could create a three-dimensional world. So we had to do that. And that was the beginning of Landmark. I mean, the original code name for Landmark was Builder because it was, building tools. And, as we were doing it, we started building things like for SOE Live and that kind of thing. We started to realize that it was really fun to build with the building tools. And it really didn't take that long before, someone on the team was like, why don't we just make this a game? Like this should be its own game, And that's sort of how Landmark came to be. And so, it took us by surprise as much as I think it took everyone else by surprise. Like we, had to sort of figure out what this was that we were doing. And it's been really cool. Cast Tulu says, my feelings on Star Wars now being with Disney. So at first I was bummed out when Disney bought them, but then I realized that I actually think it's really good that they bought them, because if you look at what they've done with Marvel, they really have shown an understanding, and it's true in their other stuff too, it just wasn't obvious in like nerdy culture, that they really know how to build out and exploit, both for good and bad, and intellectual property, right? Like, what they've done with Marvel is nothing short of amazing. And, the fact that they're going to take on Star Wars and grow it in all these directions, is good, because, like, I think a lot of folks have felt like George Lucas and, his company was very, what's that word? Like, very focused. Like, he had one direction and that was it. And, I think that a lot of folks didn't feel that the prequels were really that good. And, a lot of the stuff wasn't really going in the direction people wanted. So this is a breath of fresh air. It could go really, really badly still. But I would rather, take the risk and see what Disney does than have it stay where it was. So I'm really excited, and I've got a lot of faith in that Disney will do good stuff with it. Let's see. Do I think Lando should have died in Return of the Jedi? No. Lando blew up the Death Star. Lando definitely should have got laid at the end of Return of the Jedi. They were going to kill Han Solo, but didn't because they wanted to sell more toys. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like selling toys, and Star Wars was one of the first intellectual properties that really valued licensing. I mean, George Lucas traded a whole bunch of his creative rights for merchandise rights, and that's why he became a billionaire, and that's why he was able to keep Star Wars as his own thing for so long. So in some ways, like, not a great decision, but in a lot of ways, he made a decision that made Star Wars his forever. And it was just incredible. And I love the fact that he donated the proceeds from selling Star Wars to Disney to education. So, George Lucas really is a class act. For as much criticism as I can heap on him for some of the stuff, man, that guy is impressive. Can we do a contest to name the islands in Landmark? Maybe. I don't know. Sounds like a good idea. And then a contest to create the graveyards. I tell you what, because, I mean, that's a perfectly reasonable idea. I don't know if we'll actually do a contest specifically for that, but certainly if people just build awesome graveyards, and this is something, too, that we haven't really talked about, but is definitely going to happen. As people are building awesome things just in general, and we see them, we'll probably individually contact people and ask them if we can use stuff. So it doesn't necessarily need to be in the form of a contest. Definitely just feel free to build awesome stuff. So I mean, build a cool graveyard and a decent chance we'll use it. Uh, am I an Ewok lover or hater? I would say neither. Uh, I, I was a kid when I saw Return of the Jedi, uh, and I thought the Ewoks were really cool when I was a kid. I think that, you know, I think they're fine. Like, they're not like the Gungans where, you just roll your eyes at the thought of them. Uh, but that may also be because I was a kid at the time. But yeah, I got no problem with them. I think they're cute. I really like the the scene where C-3PO is like explaining to the Ewoks like what's going on, and you can tell that like he's clearly like dumbing it down for their sort of simple culture to understand, but he still uses all the badass sound effects. Uh, yeah, that really cracked me up. How will outfits work? Will you have to buy them or find them or both? It'll be both. You'll be able to encounter them in the world. You'll also be able to get them on Player Studio and through our shop. We anticipate that you know that'll be something that people are designing through Player Studio eventually. So lots and lots and lots of different ways to get outfits. And we're planning to have lots and lots of outfits. Pretty soon too, we're gonna one of those building blocks videos that shows a few of the new outfits, and they're pretty cool. Show your followers you care by getting the hail emote into the game. Uh, I I guarantee you, I stake my reputation on the fact that we will have hail in EverQuest next. I guarantee it. Let's see. Dephonic says, question about becoming an insider. I stream for our community 2 to 12 hours a day. Dephonic, send me a Twitch message with some information about your stream and what you do, and we can talk about it offline for sure. K Mama says, what kind of scotch would I suggest for someone who's never had it? Without any further information, I would suggest Glenlivet 12. Glenlivet is the best-selling scotch in the world. It's the most easy to find. It's also really cheap. You can get it for about $22 at Costco, maximum $30 a bottle anywhere you go. It's really nice. It's fairly light, floral. I would put some ice in it, let that melt a little bit it sounds like you're watering it down, but you're not. Actually, it's very typical to put a little water in your scotch. But you should try that. If you try Glenlivet 12 and you hate it, scotch is probably not for you. If you do like it, then you've taken your first step into a larger world, as Obi-Wan Kenobi might say. Let's see. Just trying to catch up. I've gotten a little further behind on chat since I told the Lando Calrissian story, and now we can see what Star Wars fans there are. And so, what do you guys think? Right? Like, how do you feel about Disney taking over for Star Wars? I mean, I've said what I think, but it is a really interesting and very controversial thing. There are lots of great opinions in here too. Was the decision to keep EverQuest Next and Landmark linked but separate intentional to protect each of them from the other possibly doing worse than hoped? No. The reason to keep them separate but linked is that we feel like the games are similar but different, right? And I know this whole question is kind of confusing, but the reason that like Landmark and Next are built with the same tools. They have a lot of things in common, but they aren't. They aren't, like completely tied together. And we're not really concerned about either game failing. We think that they're both really, really strong pieces, and it's not like we're worried that okay, we'll have to cut bait on one of them. We just feel like they're going to grow in different ways. So, if we just made them all one product, then they couldn't grow in their different ways. And so I think that's the primary reason. John Quinn asks, how did you come up with the island names? That's a great question. I ask myself that a lot. Uh, actually, like our creative development team came up with them, and I'm not sure if they're temporary just for beta, alpha and beta, or if they're the permanent names. Oh, our first ban. Well, that's a bummer, but it looks like they deserved it. If we get Omid drunk enough, do you think we can convince him it's an awesome idea to get a pickaxe tramp stamp tattoo? That's going to have to be pretty drunk, Schrodinger Cat EQN, which is a great username. Uh, and it's funny too, if you folks are not familiar with the concept of Schrodinger's cat, you should go look it up. I like to say it in meetings to see who knows what it is. It's a really good way to say we don't know what's going to happen just yet. But yeah, it always cracks me up. All you guys are pretty awesome. Hey, and let's give a round of applause to Zaitsev too. He's been our moderator. This is the second time he's moderated, and he's done a great job. He's given out all the Prime Grappler codes. So sorry that there aren't any more of those, but definitely give him a thanks and give him a follow too, because he's just starting to stream, I think. Oh, these are some terrible ideas for emotes. Punch baby. Have a great night, Nayballs. Yeah, and thanks to everyone in Europe. You guys are up really late. Uh, that's pretty awesome. Let's see. And yeah, I mean, thanks guys for making this chat so good. Like, I haven't played a minute of a game on the stream just because the conversation has been so engaging. So, thank you guys so much. Oh, it's going fast again. Let's see. UNED says, I feel that not starting with all the building tools may discourage players from building until they have supplies. Is this by design? Yeah, we in our test versions had all the tools available off the bat, and what we would find is there was this sort of like information paralysis. There's so much to do and so much to look at that you just kind of go, what does any of it do? And then even after you're explained, you have to spend so much time uh, like figuring out each individual piece. We decided it would just be better if people, started off sort of with, I can put blocks down sort of thing, and then graduated to the more sophisticated tools. And so over time, you're becoming a more sophisticated builder, which feels really good, right? Because it's got a progression element. Are islands the way the game will be played in live? I've heard people saying they're waiting on continents. So Firefoot, we tend to use the words islands and continents interchangeably internally, just because they kind of mean the same thing to us, landmass. And the goal is to have the continents or islands be as big as possible. But there's all these tricks with how servers are set up as to how many people can be in a similar place. And with this game too, the technology is so different from anything that's existed before that we really are testing the limits of data serving and things like that. So things like in the minimum system requirements, we had to list out internet connection speed, which is something that doesn't typically happen anymore. Which kind of reminds us of starting on original EQ, where there's you're going to have an internet connection, which was a new thing. And one of the EQ stories we got that was actually from one of our producers internally, a guy named Todd Carson, was that he heard that and he was like, oh, that internet, I've been meaning to get that. I guess now's as good a time as any, and that's how he started playing EverQuest, right? So we're really pushing on the envelope of the technology. And so, trying to figure out the best way to do this. And so, the goal is to have more space on a continent, but it's really going to be up to what we can handle. In regards to keeping them linked but separate, EverQuest and Landmark, or EverQuest Next and Landmark, I'm more wondering because Landmark, oh man, scrolling, at its root seems like a really robust crafting system, and I have to wonder how crafting in EverQuest Next will compare. I suppose we'll know once it come out how the crafting will compare. Yeah, it's really, and you've asked some really good questions too. Really hard to say how they're going to compare at this point. The goal is for both of them to have very robust crafting systems, and they will be a little bit different from each other too, just based on different needs in the game. But yeah, we want to have very robust systems in both of them. Okay, hang on. I just got another drink purchase. So checking that out, thank you very much. From Anshu, it says, hey, can you do a shout out for a website that I can't possibly just say out loud, so I'll paste into chat. It's a great tool for players who work together, refining ideas in a format that developers can easily consume. Give me 1 second to actually look at this link and make sure you're not some sort of horrible monster. No, that looks like it's not spam. So yeah, let me paste this in, and maybe in chat you can tell people a little bit about it, because it's the first time that I'm seeing it. I'll check it out more after the stream too. But thank you very much, and cheers to you. All right, and let me see here. Yeah, and thank you guys too, especially the folks in Europe. You guys are staying up way too late, and don't feel bad at all about going to bed. I do really appreciate you guys hanging out. It's okay. So as a public service announcement for those of you in Europe, it is 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, so maybe it's time for bed. But yeah, I'm here on the west coast of the U.S., so it is just coming up on 8 o'clock. And where did this go? Have you checked out Dwarf Fortress? Oh, this is a question after my own heart. There's some great concepts that could really transfer well to Landmark, like Mechanic. Yes, I love Dwarf Fortress. I'm actually not terribly good at it, but I've played a fair amount of it. And it is a wonderful game that I cannot recommend to anyone because it's so baffling and hard. But like I've said, I love the most boring games you can imagine. Like sort of the more boring and abstract and complicated they are, the more I like them. So Dwarf Fortress is just probably the best example of that that's possible. I mean, other than playing like Spreadsheet Manager, like games don't get much more abstract and difficult. So yeah, it's wonderful, and we have a few Dwarf Fortress players on the team, and yeah, we do take inspiration from it. Let's see, trying to catch up with the chat. And again, thanks so much for all these great questions. And for folks who are just joining, if there are any, my name is Omid Daryani. I'm the Senior Brand Manager of the EverQuest franchise. That's EverQuest, EverQuest 2, Landmark, and EverQuest Next. So if you have questions about that or anything else, Scotch in particular, or gaming, or the game industry in general, I'm happy to talk about them. I think I am now celebrating my 16th year in the game industry this year, so that's pretty exciting. I've gotten to do all sorts of things like, work on trading card games, board games, cartoons, movies, comic books, video games, mobile games, Facebook games, sort of the whole gamut of gaming. Pretty awesome. Psycho Liquid asks, are you using SSHDs in the servers, or are they clustering? I honestly have no idea about server configuration stuff. If you have questions like that, you should tweet Terry Michaels or Steve Klug. They would be able to answer that very quickly. And so for all you guys, if you don't mind, if you aren't following the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you are. You can also follow me on Twitter. I tweet a lot about EverQuest Next and Landmark. follow me on YouTube where I post all the replays of this and all the various videos that I'm in, like roundtables and Sony Online live streams, that sort of thing as well. Maddox asks, any Redstone type system coming to Landmark? And the answer is probably. We're looking into a whole bunch of different ways to make a redstone system or just mechanical things work in general. So we're still figuring it out, and we'll see how it goes. Legendary Neurotoxin, of course you can get a shout out. So the shout out is that Castles and Crap Shacks episode 2 starts at 2 p.m. tomorrow. PDT, well done there. Tomorrow is also the beginning of daylight saving time, so he correctly used PDT. Oh, and then the last part is time change tonight. But yeah, if you guys aren't following Legendary Neurotoxin, he is a streamer as well. He's on Into the Portal and does a whole bunch of his own stuff. He's a super passionate fan of not just SOE games, but all sorts of games, and a true student of gaming. So I highly recommend following him and checking out his stuff. He's pretty cool. Anshu says about the EQNL player ideas Wikia, that it is a place. Sorry, I lost. It is a place for players to work together to really refine ideas in a way that developers can consume easily. Anshu, can you send me that in a Twitch message as well? I would love to, if you're not in touch with Jen Bridges on our team, who is like our Wikia manager, get you guys talking so that that can be incorporated into what we're thinking about and promoting on Wikia, because that'd be really cool. Firefoot says, don't buy him too many drinks. We won't hear from him again until Wednesday. Trust me, it'll be fine. Yeah. A fair portion of I get a lot of questions about what being a brand manager is, and a fair portion of that is doing partner management and business development. So going out with completely insane people all day and all night long and drinking. So I've developed quite a tolerance for iocane powder. All right, let's see. A lot of Swedes in here apparently. Well, that's good. Yeah, where is everybody? Where are you guys? And thanks for spending your Saturday watching. This is my personal channel. This is my personal time. So I really just like hanging out with you folks. So it's cool to hear from you. I'm pretty good at Spreadsheet Manager 3, The Reckoning, Brandon says. Yeah, me too. I love Football Manager, actually, which is basically just Spreadsheet Manager. Let's see. Finishing my BA in game design this year, Ravat says. Where are you studying? Be pretty cool to hear about. I get a lot of questions asking for recommendations of game design schools, and it's just not something that that I have a lot of familiarity with. What do I think about 3D and augmented VR devices like Oculus Rift? Do I think it's the future of gaming? I don't know that it's the future of gaming. It certainly has potential to be something like that. I think it's really cool. Oculus Rift, I feel like, has a little bit of a ways to go. But I love the idea, like the sort of Ready Player One kind of thing is really cool. And eventually, that sort of immersion will get there, right? But, I don't know if we're there just yet. Chaos Lord asks about rallying calls in EQN and how they'll start. Right now, they're planned to be server events, so things that we're triggering, as opposed to what something players or guilds could do. It doesn't mean that players and guilds couldn't essentially start a rallying call, right? Like if we say that, if there are all these orcs and then a player, or a guild said, we'll give 1,000 platinum to people when all the orcs are gone. That's essentially a rallying call. And when it happens, if they pay out, it's sort of like what Eve does, right? A lot of the a lot of the story development is generated by the people playing, you know, as opposed to what the company says should happen. And we're really hoping that that players will take a lot of that on themselves. Wow, folks are from everywhere. That's awesome. Yeah, New Zealand Sunday afternoon here. Yeah, I love that. Like Australia and New Zealand, it always just seems to be a good time of day. Oh, you guys are cracking me up. Oh, hey, mindless puppets, how you doing? Wow, I for the first time in this chat, I have caught up with the chat. I don't know what to do. This is weird. What? Uh, yeah, that's pretty funny. Oh, where do you live in Virginia, puppets? I used to live in Virginia. Uh, will there be a rallying call 100% of the time, or will there be gaps between them? I don't know. It's a really good question. And hello for the folks who are just joining us. Signs, Kirapai. Good night, Piri. Gute Nacht. Uh, let's see. I think that we're still trying to figure out exactly how it'll work, but right now we're thinking that there could be even multiple rallying calls going on the same server at the same time. There's no reason. Like if you imagine that. Sorry, what was I going to say? I got distracted by Charlottesville. Who's in Charlottesville? I went to school there. Uh, and Roanoke. I went to high school there. Yeah, so lots of Virginia related chat. But yeah, I mean, if you imagine that in the on a northern continent there's something involving orcs going on, and then on a southern continent there's something involving dragons going on. There's no reason that there couldn't be those two completely separate rallying calls going at the same time. Uh, so yeah, I mean, we're still working on it, but I imagine that there's actually going to be a lot of rallying calls going on. Let's see. What if a guild wants to pacify an area and build a city or a town in that location? Will there be a system for players to accomplish that? Chaos, at this point, it's hard to say yes or no to that question. What you're asking is awesome. You know, if we do that, it's pretty incredible, right? But it also gets to one of the hardest things about sandbox management, and having enough space for stuff like that. But I think it's really cool, and I would really hope to see things like that. I know for sure, the mechanics of the game are going to allow you to, change the environment, influence who's there, if orcs are there, or if it's a settlable, safe area for human characters or elves or whatever. So, I mean, what you're asking would actually just sort of be the next logical step, but it's tough to say so early. Will we get moddable props where we can change the color of the glass, label, and cork on the bottle independently on a single prop? I don't know. My inclination is probably not, at least not for a while. Uh, because it's just such an unusual thing, and it's one of those things that only a very specific set of people would ever use. So, that may limit the utility of it, but it's a cool idea. What are my thoughts on an in-game mechanic for player-made game-arbitrated quests? Well, so I think that we're actually going to have that in EverQuest Next, because we're talking about giving you all the AI tools to create, like a dungeon or something like that. So it wouldn't be difficult to create, you know, a player-made quest that follows all the game rules. So I think it actually will be, completely doable. You live in Roanoke and went to UVA also. That's cool. Yeah, I haven't been back to Roanoke in quite a while. Drove through there a few years ago and just had lunch. Well, if you live in Roanoke, if you ever go into Star City Games in, I think it's on Williamson Road still. Um, if you can chase down the owner, Pete Hofling, and mention my name, he might tell you a few good stories. But Star City Games is actually like the biggest Magic game store in the world is in Roanoke, Virginia. Can players build towns in EQN? Not in the current version of the design. We're looking at it as being, cities that are built by, by the game itself, and then players can sort of build some around that. But we have been talking about things like that, and stuff like that is really cool, and we've tried it in other games as well. Uh, it would be neat. Yeah, player cities and city building. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a desire for that kind of system. Those systems are just really challenging to implement. Did I hear about the miracle machine that makes wine in 3 days that's trying to get Kickstarter help? No, I haven't. I would love a message about that because that sounds pretty interesting. If you can make any kind of wine in 3 days, it doesn't sound believable, but I would love to hear more about it. So I'm gonna catch up with the chat, but then I think I gotta get going. I've been streaming for about 4 hours now, so let me just catch up and see where we are. Should start giving out Nagy hats. We actually just gave a whole bunch of them out to the EQN team yesterday, which was pretty cool. I didn't realize we even still had a decent stock of them. What about taking over an enemy city? Say a group clears an orc fort or town. Could you then take it over? Right now, what I've heard in the design, and remember, for EverQuest Next, design stuff is super early. Uh, that doesn't seem like something that's likely to happen. The the sandbox nature of it is not, it's not the same as like nullsec in Eve where you can just do anything. Uh, as far as like affecting the environment, but it's certainly still being discussed, and really depends on how sandboxy we land on the game. No worries, puppets. I'll actually be posting this video to YouTube, so everyone can see if you guys missed the stream tonight. Uh, but yeah, I've just been doing Q&A. People have been asking questions. We've just been chatting about stuff: Star Wars, Scotch, Landmark, Hearthstone, Banished. You know, all kinds of all over the place. So it's pretty fun. Let's see. Will there be a gnome-built steam train transit system in EQN? I hope so, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do fast travel, uh, so we'll see how it goes. But I always love the gnomey, steampunky stuff. Yeah, Neuro, I have no idea how you would do 3-day wine. That's why I kind of want to hear more about it. I mean, they have to be cheating somehow, but it would be really cool. Let's see. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I think I'm going to wrap up now. It's been really great. I really appreciate your time. If you haven't followed, follow the channel. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on YouTube. You can always buy me a drink as well. I will probably be streaming again next Saturday. I'll post on Twitter as soon as I can confirm that. But it's pretty fun, and I've had a great time. So thanks, guys, so much, and I will see you next time.